Hi, I'm Jessica Amir for the Finance News Network. Joining me today is the CEO of Adslot, Lowe. Ian, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So Ian, the digital advertising world appears to be in a state of chaos. We're seeing advertisers boycotting and even media companies entering into litigation with their technology partners. But Ian, can you tell us what's happening?
Certainly. So there's been a range of issues that have been reported more recently, and they fall into a couple of different categories. The first is we've seen advertising start to appear next to undesirable content as it relates to the advertiser. They don't want to be associated with that content, and from that we've seen some boycotts from some of the world's largest advertisers in various markets around the world. And the second is that there's been a general lack of transparency that advertisers are becoming less and less comfortable with as it relates to the dollars that they put into the advertising ecosystem, where those dollars ultimately pool with publishers, and what margins are being taken by various intermediaries in between the buyer and the seller. So I think it's important that we understand that the range of issues that we've seen fall broadly into these two categories, but equally this is all happening within a particular subset of the market, which is a subset of the market that uses technology referred to as real-time bidding, or sometimes programmatic technology, to actually trade the media. So this is programmatic technology that is allowing a buyer and a seller to transact the media itself, and it's that section of the market, the programmatic part of the market, where we're seeing these issues emerge.
So how has Adslot been impacted by the backlash?
Well, essentially we haven't been impacted at all. So Adslot's technology operates in the non-programmatic segment of the market. So these types of issues our clients don't experience when they trade through our technology.
That's good to hear. So what solutions do you think the industry wants to hear to address these problems?
Well, in relation to transparency, it's quite simple. An advertiser needs to be certain that the money they're putting on the table to buy the media itself is being spent on that media, and that multiple intermediaries, even if they are necessarily involved, that they can minimise the extent to which they're eroding that budget. They want that budget to be spent to the fullest extent possible on the media itself. So it's a confidence-related issue around a lack of transparency, and clearly the solution to that is to provide complete transparency. And so the second issue, being brand safety, is really about the publisher being able to give confidence to the buyer that their message is going to be consumed in an environment that's appropriate to the advertiser. So there's really two flavours of problem here. The first is where an advertiser buys an audience through a programmatic technology, and they don't necessarily know exactly where that ad will ultimately be displayed. And it could be displayed on a site that's entirely inappropriate for the message or the brand. And the second type of brand safety issue is where the content that is alongside of the advertising is actually generated by the users of the website itself. And the recent example was obviously the boycott we saw on YouTube. So that's user-generated content where Google essentially need to be able to provide a guarantee to the advertiser that the content that sits alongside of the ad itself will always be appropriate or won't be inappropriate to that message. And that's a very, very difficult thing for them to do, even for a company like Google. In fact, many would say it's probably impossible.
That's really interesting. So how is Adslot placed for these requirements?
Well, in relation to transparency, we're really well placed. All of the transactions that go through the Adslot technology, the buyer and the seller are dealing with each other directly. So there's no intermediary, there's no hidden party in the middle that's either taking a piece of the budget or there's some kind of hidden margin. The buyer transacts with the confidence of knowing that every dollar that they spend on the advertising is finding its way directly to the publisher. In relation to brand safety, it's really an extension of the same dynamic. The buyer is making a conscious decision in advance as to exactly which sites they want their ad to appear on, because it's contextually relevant and it offers them that brand safety. So they have a relationship with the publisher that they buy the advertising space from, and they know well in advance exactly where the ad is going to appear. There's an additional point that's worth making here as well, which is that programmatic technology has brought some really important innovation to the industry. Specifically the ability to target users at a very granular level, essentially by an audience rather than just a placement, in addition to being able to operate at scale in a way that technology is obviously good at doing. So the Adslot technology offers both of these benefits alongside of the transparency and the brand safety, which is clearly an issue in the programmatic world. So our technology allows a buyer to target at a granular level using audience data, and it also offers them the scalability that comes through a purpose-built platform.
So last question, Ian, what's your focus for the next 6 months and what are the long-term ambitions for Adslot?
Well, look, we're working with a range of really large media buyers and media sellers around the world, driving adoption of our trading technology. And so we've got our sights set on a number of significant opportunities with large customers that we're in the process of closing and transitioning into meaningful revenue. So there's some really significant sales and revenue related goals for us over the next 6 months that we're really very, very focused on.
Ian Lowe, thanks so much for the update.
It's a pleasure.